The chords are sounding good. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Unconventional Therapist Guide to Nothing. My name is Dave, and I'm joined here with my co host, with the Mo host, Greg.
Can tell it's morning, right?
Welcome, everyone,
How you doing, Dave?
as we wake up.
Yes, as we wake up with us. Oh, a morning show. That's not the worst idea,
I
right?
guess, yeah. Are you
I mean, those
allowed
are
to be
fun.
tired on a morning show as a
It never
host?
seems like they are, or they're just pushing over the top to seem not tired.
Yeah. It just feels like they look all fully rested and as if they've been up since like 4 a.m.
Never understood it.
I never did either.
Never understood it.
That's not me.
Dave, we jumping right into this thing, or do you have anything you want to let the people know about?
Well, I do want to say that well, first,
Mm,
Patreon.
of course.
We always forget to talk about Patreon at the top of the episode. So, yes, join Patreon. We will be getting more bonus episodes out. We will be delivering some stickers to individuals who have left us their mailing address. If you didn't leave it and you didn't trust us, that's weird. Because what would I do with your mailing address other than send you a sticker?
Send you chain letters.
Maybe it's just my innocence that can't even bring my mind there to think
Yeah.
of what I could do. But yes, join Patreon. But to everybody else that's been listening on other platforms, that's also super awesome, and we appreciate you. Um, yeah, so that's about that. This episode is a recommendation from
Yes.
a follower. So I had never heard of it before. And as we dig into it, most of you will probably say you've never heard anyone reference it as well, but it makes a lot of sense. And as soon as they said it, I was like, oh, yeah, that is kind of an interesting thing to explore. Um, can we make it interesting? I don't know. We'll find out as we go along today.
Yeah, well, I mean, we will do the recommendations, whether or not we can make them in. We will. We
It
will.
is an
Uh,
interesting theme. I just don't
Concept.
know in concept, right? I just don't know if the information we'll provide
Because I
is
think a lot of people, when they hear this, they're going to be like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. I mean, we're talking, I'm going to mention what it is because we never do. We're talking
yep.
about sudden wealth syndrome. And I think if this was an episode saying how to become suddenly wealthy, we might perk a couple more
We've
ears.
never gotten so many listeners.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe at the end, if you wait till the end, we might have a tip for that. Maybe.
Wait, you might.
Well, if I had one, I would have used it by now. Dave, I think like when I think this is very Faustian, like we talked about in the past, getting something for nothing. I think that's kind of at the root of this. And as I say root, something comes to mind. You know how people say money is the root of all evil?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that it's definitely a phrase I've used, I've heard 1,000 times. I think it can be
So
because
here,
of our inability to like be responsible at times, right?
yeah, well, in an effort to kind of put our own spin on this, I thought about it a little bit, and I think if you insert power, you get a little clearer picture of
Which
what causes people to act
and
outside of
don't we
themselves.
associate money with power?
But for me, I think what's going on is it's actually the opposite. So, whether it's for greed or necessity, seeking money can make you do pretty deplorable things. I think we can agree on that. But I would actually say that when I look at this and when I look at my own life, I think the lack of money is the root of all evil. Does that make
Oh,
any sense?
I definitely concede. I think it's both, right? I think
Yeah.
it too much allows you too much access, not enough forces you to gain access to things that are dangerous.
Well, when we talk about the most horrible people that we've talked about on this podcast, like when we think about the Countess Bathory or Madame Lalaurie, like we're talking about rich people who have kind of elevated themselves over everyone else. I think that's where money becomes dangerous,
Mm.
but that's also where it crosses into power. But when I have more money, and there's been times in my life where like not a windfall, but I've had a few extra bucks. I find myself way more generous. I'm a little bit freer with my work schedule, so I get to spend time with more family. I'm genuinely happier, and I think like because I'm craving less, because I'm seeking less, I don't know. There's a balance, I guess. I guess it always comes down to
But
that.
Greg, here's a question for you.
Sure,
And
sure,
I don't take this as a slight.
sure.
Me and you both can say that at times we've been motivated by money, and money might have influenced our choices in life, right? And
Hmm.
I'm even thinking of recent times where, maybe we had employment that had a wage that was modest. And as we got access to, or the ability to be able to say, like, hey, I need more, I need more money, right? That
Yeah,
might have influenced our choices with employment, or which, like, we might have made choices that were more based on money versus like maybe the thing that actually is important, which is the work we're doing, right?
right. No, of course. And we're all kind of, and maybe that's how money is the root of all evil, because we're all kind of squeezed into that
Right.
framework.
But we're doing it out of necessity, or possibly that idea that it could be more comfortable if I pursue it this way. Here's the other thing, though. Neither of us have ever experienced, and I don't think so, at least for you, being wealthy,
Bro,
which
dude.
is different than what we are,
We
right?
are or just a fucking hair over poor.
Right. We are
We
not
work in mental health.
wealthy. And I do think that wealth is different than any experience that like the average person is going to experience, because wealth is different, right?
Mhm.
Being wealthy gets you access into things, and it does have power to it, I think. Just the way the status people put you at and the things you can do with that. So I just wanted to say that I do think that, like, even if we can relate to this concept, I don't think we can ever actually say we've truly experienced it.
No, and wealth is also that thing where you kind of you have something without earning it. And I think that's something that keeps coming back here. There's a difference about how you feel about yourself and other people when you've had to
Ooh.
make your own way, I
Okay,
think.
but you could have earned being wealthy, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess we'd have to decide like what wealth to me, when I say it, I think
You think of
almost
like family, you
generationally.
think like family inheritance,
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
family business that, was you just kind of were born into. What a silver
Yeah.
spoon, is that what they,
Yeah, that's what
that
I
kind of
think of.
idea. Yeah, but then, there's other examples of people who have literally worked from the ground up to
Mm.
get wealth, right?
I wonder if there's a number on wealth. Like, what's the wealth number?
But yeah. And then I guess that the thing that would separate this is we're talking about sudden wealth.
Yes.
So if it's sudden, that does mean, like maybe it was an inheritance, or something that caused it to happen versus like you worked your way to this wealth. So that will be where sudden wealth syndrome
Uh,
differs from other kind of wealth.
right. So like you hit the lottery, your podcast blows up, you all of a sudden, like rookie of the year, you can throw a 1,000 mile an hour fastball.
Mm.
But is there a price to pay for this
Yeah,
like athletes
athletes.
for
I didn't
sure?
even think of a lot of that,
Oh, of
how
course. Yeah.
they go from nothing to something very fast.
Yeah, like this shift in your socioeconomic status,
Now, that
is
will
it mo money, mo
change.
problems?
I believe so. I do believe that will change with athletes, as they're now starting to make endorsement deals from a college level, right? So they'll more slowly build to wealth, but still is that healthy, and they're super young. So
Where's
I
all
don't
this money come from? Like when I think of how many Instagram stars there are and TikToks and
I know it feels like so many like YouTubers and stuff like that
they're all
are
rich.
buying houses with their YouTube money, and I'm like, wow, how many of you get to do this, and why am I not there? Well,
Yeah, what?
and then my shame kicks in,
Yeah,
and listen
as
to
and
last week.
dip back into last week.
Yeah.
So, Dave, let me define this thing for you. So, sudden wealth syndrome is the collection of emotional and psychological changes such as anxiety, stress, guilt, and I think most interesting to me is identity crisis that
Mm.
can occur after unexpected financial windfall, like we said, inheritance, lottery. And this is, a real phenomenon that can lead to poor financial decisions, social isolation, and, in terms of our interests, mental health struggles. So I think of this, and I think also the identity crisis portion of it, I think is pretty interesting. And I
Yeah.
also think, imagine you do get this windfall. Like you have to remember, oh, now I buy this huge house, buy these huge cars, and I have like a staff. How fast can you go through this money? I mean, that's another thing. You have to
Right.
you have to know how to have money and make it grow. I mean, not that I would ever have,
Yeah. You
but
know,
let's.
I just thought of something as you were saying that. So I worked with this kid
Mhm.
who grew up, mostly in poverty, using the child protective services stuff, bad upbringing, was hit by a car. And because he was underage, I think he was like 16, he was getting the money from, I think they sued. That all happened before I met him. So this was already in place. But like, I forget how often it would come in. He would get this large chunk of change, and it was some crazy number, and it would be gone in weeks.
Yeah, can come in with a fur
He
coat,
would
like hang
buy, yeah,
out.
he'd buy Jordans for him and all of his family. And I'm like, why are you doing this? It would drive me nuts because I'm like, this money could be used for so much better. And here you are. Every time this allotment of money would come in, you're just sitting there buying. And like, it was his family would come around every time they knew, which we'll get into, I'm sure. Every time they knew the money was in.
Yeah, Dave, I think you and I often like hear you talking about something and like I feel how responsible and I just know I feel like I know that you're financially responsible
Oh,
and
I'm
everything like
frugal
that.
as hell too. Yeah.
Dude, you want to know what? You want to know who isn't? You want to know who would be just like your friend?
Oh,
Me.
really?
I honestly think, and I think it's because by saying sudden wealth syndrome, you're suggesting that the person who experiences this is probably poor
Yeah.
on some level, right? It's
Yeah.
like a huge, it's not like I'm doing pretty well and then I'm like now I'm doing really well. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about rags to riches, you know?
Now,
And
now,
and I
who influenced that in you, do you think?
what's that?
So you grew up one way,
Hmm.
but that idea of how you would act if you did come across money maybe was influenced by another, like, because for me, I know that
I know
frugalness
how.
is was passed on from my parents. They're super frugal.
Yes. I'll tell you. All things in the end, I am a therapist and I know exactly why I am the way I am, So
Yeah,
I grew up. My parents were had limited income,
sure.
that's for sure. We didn't. It wasn't like I'm like super poor or anything like that. But we had, when school shopping time would come around and things like that, we wouldn't. My sister and I wouldn't have everything all the other kids had. So now, anytime I have like an influx of income, I'm like, let me have the things now,
That you
just
didn't
in
have.
case I'm ever back in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
I will have those things. I'll never have to feel like that again. That's how I am.
Sure,
And
sure.
it's in there somewhere, and I can recognize it, and I can keep tabs on it because like anytime I get a little extra money, I'm like, all right, now let's get all those things that you never had, so that like no one can ever take it from you, you know?
Yeah.
And you know that about me,
You're
I'm sure.
wearing like 90s like starter jackets. Like,
I know. I got four of them just in case. I'll never not have a new '90s starter jacket. You know what I mean? Like that
yeah.
kind of thing. So causes and symptoms. So people who develop this sudden wealth syndrome, when they're not financially literate, like myself, or prepared for a large unexpected influx of money, that's sort of the cause, obviously, right? And the symptoms are anxiety and stress. Like you feel overwhelmed by this new financial situation. And everyone's thinking like, that's the kind of anxiety
Oh,
I'm looking
poor
for.
you is
Yeah.
what
Oh
everyone's
no.
thinking.
Oh, baby sad. And it's like
That must be
so
the worst feeling. Like you
so here's
can't
there's
ex-
three symptoms that I can appreciate. I can see them, but I'm also welcoming them. Like I just saw Creed this past weekend, and I welcome them with arms wide open. So the anxiety and stress of it all, sure, right? Feeling overwhelmed by this new financial situation, fine. Guilt, I don't know. Feeling that the money wasn't earned or that it comes at the expense of others, okay. And
Mhm.
isolation, feeling disconnected from friends and family due to life change. Now, this one's going to be interesting because, and I'll let you get into this a little bit
Yeah.
because I think this is isolation in a different way. You're not going to have lack of people around you.
No, it could go either way. It definitely
Okay,
could
all
go
right.
either way. But here's the other thing: isolation in the fact that nobody has sympathy for you. Like,
Ah,
listen to how we're talking about it.
dude,
Like,
good point.
you feel anxiety and stress, you feel negative feelings, but you don't even feel like anyone can relate to you or wants to relate to you because they're looking at you kind of like, judgmentally or like, who are you to complain? Look at all you have.
Also, like, w we're here for you. We're all over you. We're laughing at your jokes, almost like that scene in The Sopranos where like we're all about you. But it's none of it is authentic because they're there because they want something from you.
There is a reason Drake said no new friends.
No
And
new
this is
friends.
why. This is why. That's what I mean. Drake's all about this. Like, people only coming around when they want money. So yeah,
Drake, you got it.
isolation. Um, Friends and family might start to distance themselves or just treat the person differently. Suddenly, all of a sudden, people start to come out of the woodwork. And I think that's a thing you always hear about.
Hmm.
Like there are certain stereotypes that we all know and how realistic they are. I'm assuming they're pretty realistic because we see it on a pretty much normal basis with celebrity, right?
Hmm.
You see a celebrity walking around and they got this big entourage of people. I don't care if it's like Kevin Hart or an athlete or whoever. Like they walk around, there's all these people following them around, and you're like, you kind of know why they're there, right? You know
Those
what
aren't your
they're,
buddies.
yeah. And like that must be the hardest thing. Like, who here is my actual friend? And then you always hear that idea, like you were here before I was rich, right? Like you hear people talk about that kind of concept. And I guess that's one way to know, but
Mm,
couldn't that also change?
of course. And you kind of have that thing in the back of your mind when the money runs out, what's my worth? Your worth
Yeah.
becomes the money.
Yeah.
Like they're gone. They're gone.
And with isolation, the other part, so like obviously, if people distance themselves from you or they start acting differently and you don't feel like you can be isolated and still have people around you, right? Like you can
Mhm.
feel alone and be in a room of people if you feel disconnected from people. So if you don't feel like people are there for you genuinely or authentically, it's going to make you feel alone if you don't feel connected to the people around you. But then the other thing is, I guess this would be another issue. Do you continue to work if you're suddenly wealthy and you don't need to? And then what are you doing to fill your time if you're not working, right? If you're someone
Yeah.
who's always worked, now you just have this empty time and it's a void. And like, who are you? Because, like, unfortunately, so many of us view ourselves, our identity through our employment or our field of expertise. I'll never forget, I don't even know why we did this in this class. It was like I want to say it was like an English class, but he had us go around and introduce ourselves and just kind of say who we were. And everybody in the class identified themselves through either their major or their job that they did. And he goes, "That's not actually who you are, though." And he like kind of gave us some other ideas how we could expand on that. But I
Yeah.
think people do that, right?
Of course they do. And then it's like, okay, now I have all this money and I can follow my passion. And then that's like this represented or really misunderstood concept too, because that's presupposing that every single one of us has this passion. And if
Yeah,
you would, and it's
right.
like, that's not how it works. And the younger people listening should know that that's not how it works too. Like we don't all just have this like intrinsic passion. It's like, no, like find something that you're kind of good at. And by becoming good at it, you become passionate about it, or
Right.
or you can make an impact somehow, or you can make connection at work. Like so, it's not all about like finding this passion, and then you might get tied up in that. And also, there's this idea of like this decision paralysis. I love the quote that Kierkegaard says, and I've mentioned it on this podcast probably 100 episodes ago. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, which means, and Dave, you kind of bought this too, like I did with Kierkegaard, this old philosopher. The more choices you have, the more difficult it is to make
Yeah.
a choice, the more
Right.
anxiety you have.
Right.
That's just clear. It's like, all right, I could do anything. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, and then there's gonna be also that like, why am I not happy now that I have all this?
That's huge. I
That's
think that's going to be so huge. You don't suddenly become happy because now you have all this money. You become happy because of the things that you invest your money and time in, right? Like the things that
Right.
now you start to take on because of this access
We
to
learned
wealth.
in this podcast, you become happy while
Yeah.
you're working on something meaningful, while you're putting yourself into something. Happiness doesn't come from, I mean, you're gonna have some immediate happiness. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
have some like
Yeah.
short-lived happiness, but
Mhm.
in the end, I don't know. So like let's get into this identity crisis a little bit. So there's a new sense of self, right? And like trying to discover your worth beyond financial status is gonna be difficult, I think.
Yeah. 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 And then like you suddenly feel different than the people that maybe you've always felt similar to
Hmm.
or identified yourself through, which I mean can happen with or without money. I think we've talked about this. Sometimes even just like the aging process and the growing process. Sometimes you can like look around and be like, I don't even know why I'm friends with these people. Like I have nothing in common with them if they're
Yeah.
like friends you've had for a long time. Sometimes but like this is a sudden change now. Like suddenly you went from one thing and now you're another thing, and now you don't necessarily identify with the people that you're surrounded by. So
Y-
the question becomes, who are you? Because
Yeah,
you're the one who changed, not them.
this is kind of making me think of remember the movie from King Ralph?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like so he finds himself, I don't know, I think the King of England, right?
Yeah, I haven't
Like
seen
John
that in
Goodman.
ages, and I don't even know if I actually watched the full thing ever. I know I've seen it, but
But so it does have it like you're kind of talking about it where you're like you have this life. Maybe he's like bowling and he's like blue collar and
yeah,
he's like this
he was a
like
bowler.
in
That's
his
right.
own way interesting guy. And now all of a sudden he's thrust into this, rich person environment. He's like, I just don't fit here. This just
You,
isn't me. And he just wants to, in the end, just go back to living the life the way he was comfortable. It's like
sure.
we think we want this lifestyle change, but I think like, as you see with some of these celebrities, especially some of these celebrities now, they're getting on planes, they're doing weird things. Like I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? Do we really want to be a part of all that?
Yeah. You know what's interesting, Greg? It feels like the 90s explored this topic so frequently. I can think back to so many different movies from the 90s that had this theme. Blank
Blank check.
Check. Did we just say that at the same
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Rookie of the Year. There's but like this idea of people suddenly stumbling on wealth felt like it was like a topic that we were always being like exposed to back in the 90s, right? Like it was just a theme that was just very present, and I don't think we talk about it as much anymore, but we do talk about it's almost like we want to stop warning people so we can watch their demise, because now all we do is talk about celebrities that go off the deep end.
So like I'm saying, these Instagram newly found wealth people are filming celebrities who have gone off the deep end. It's like almost like this thing that's like eating itself. It's very strange this whole thing. And is it? My question is this was there so many accounts of this in the 90s because it was much rarer and it's like this fantasy, and now it almost seems like you're one video away from it happening to you. And is that true?
Mm.
There's some truth in that? Is this kind of common sudden wealth syndrome now?
It could be. It very much
Sudden
could
and then
be.
rapid wealth decline, that should be
Sure.
another part of
Yeah.
this, right? And let's talk about how that would happen through like poor decision making, like how your friend would do it, showing up to your kid's soccer game with like fur coats and rims and you're just
Yeah.
making these like hasty decisions about lending money to your friends, all this.
And I think about some celebrities, like we're talking about this, for some reason Justin Bieber keeps coming into my mind because he's someone that we watched get money at a very young age, right?
Mhm.
And then we all watched his behavior changes and like personality changes throughout time, even to today, right? From
Mhm.
like his beginning of stardom to like today, we're still watching this roller coaster ride of, is he okay, what's going on with him? He's apologizing. He seems to be doing better. What's he on now? Like it just, there's this constant like change and development that we see. And it's like, was it because he never really like was educated on what to do when you get this stardom, when you get this wealth? Is it because of the wealth or is it because of the stardom? I don't know. Can you can it be more because of like the publicity? And then you think of P. Diddy, right? And all the like behaviors you hear he was doing. Talk about money as power, right?
More money, more problems. That's
Yeah,
him.
right.
And would he have been this thing had it not been for the money?
And the money influences your choices 100% if for someone like him, because of the money he can bribe people, he can keep
Hmm.
people quiet, he
Hmm.
can make you disappear.
He could
he can
perpetuate his
he can do
behavior
a lot
because
of
of,
things because of his money. So yeah, you get that sense of I have all the power in the world, no
and
one's going
it's
to come
also
after me.
interesting, like, because they both, I mean, face it, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, whatever, he was rich young, and Bieber was rich young. And, you know, I think that building character, as we've talked about in the past, comes from resistance and constant resistance and struggle and overcoming difficulty. And if
Right.
you have to stop doing that at a certain age, then you have to stop building character and you lose. I don't know. I guess you can insert like soul instead of character, right?
Sure.
And
Sure.
empathy and difficulty, and you lose all that, and you're out of touch with it for so long that you are yourself a
Yeah.
lost soul. And
So the other thing, I guess, to compare this to is for sudden wealth individuals that we're describing, maybe it's less about celebrity and it's more about like if you're inheritance, you're not in the public eye then.
yeah,
So your behaviors will change in a different way, probably a more subtle way or less egregious way than some of the things that we might see from celebrities, but it still could change. You could still, like you said, if you're not constantly working on something or working towards something and being challenged, you're not really growing, right? So then
that's it.
you have to
Yeah.
find ways to grow. And I've seen this with people. Like there are some people who have or like inherited money and they're still very good people. Like they, giving back, finding ways to like, build their character through the endeavors that they're doing with their money. And yes, still enjoying the luxuries of their money. But that's something you have to intentionally do.
That is. And you have to be cognizant of the fact that it's going to, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Right. And then like kind of piggybacking on it, I guess on the identity part, there's this financial imposter syndrome piece to it where, you're suddenly wealthy, but you find it hard to accept that now you can suddenly buy things that you can't afford. I think this would be me. This would be my
Not
version
me.
of it. It's
Yeah.
like, can I really afford to buy that? And how many of those can I actually buy before I'm broke now? I'd constantly be worrying about blowing all my money. Um, so you may continue to wear like old shoes or put off, certain things that you could benefit from or that could be valuable to you just because you don't believe necessarily that you can truly afford it. Um, so there's consequences to, the changes that happen. So in acquiring the wealth, your priorities might change, your lifestyle choices might change. And this is kind of what we've been talking about this whole
Hmm.
time, right? Behaviors, aspirations, all that stuff, it can change. It can also create this sense of like responsibility, purpose, and like carefulness um, for these individuals that what would I guess would be a positive change, right? Like that wouldn't be the worst thing to have a little sense of responsibility and purpose.
Right.
But if you don't have that, then that seems like you're kind of living almost responsibility free, which is kind of a dangerous thing. I don't know what that does to a person when you feel like I don't have anything necessarily I need to do with this wealth.
I think it's like what you're talking about. I'm thinking about someone almost living their life backwards. And what I mean by that is like when you're trying to acquire wealth, when you're like working towards that goal, Christmas morning, like we've talked about in the past,
Yeah.
then you're working towards something. You're working up, stepping up, moving towards. And then once you're like rich, you have this like undisclosed amount of money, boom, it's yours. Now you're just trying to keep what you have. So it's like it's a different approach to life, right? So you're not grasping towards and moving towards. You're trying not to move away from, which is it's a different thing. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it's like I have this pile of gold and I'm using it every day and it's not getting any bigger. Like if it was the opposite, it's getting smaller. So it's like you're living your life losing instead of living your life gaining,
Right, right.
which
Yeah.
doesn't sound good.
No, not at all. And there might be this like honeymoon period that they experience when they first come
Oh yeah,
across
that's what
their
I'm
new
talking
wealth.
about. Yeah.
And that sounds to me scary because that's not real. I mean, when I hear honeymoon period now, I never have like a good feeling about it. I always think about, this is something that's almost not even real. Like I even think about it sometimes in relationships because we did what was it, the love languages thing.
Yeah.
And there's that whole euphoric honeymoon period before the real work starts. And I'm
Hmm.
like, to me at this age, I'm just like, let's just get to the work part. I don't want to
Yeah.
do this honeymoon period. It's scary to me. But that's what you might experience with money, with coming across a large sum of money. You might experience like this intense euphoria or excitement, and suddenly you feel liberated. I can do anything. And
Yeah.
that's cool, I guess. But this is just for a short period of time. And then suddenly that starts to dissipate, and all the stresses and anxieties are going to start to come across. And you're now going to realize, I don't know what I'm doing. I actually don't know even what I can afford, maybe, or, what is responsible to do with this.
Yeah, it's interesting the honeymoon period because they've done studies and there's like this, when I read this, it was years ago and I think the number was 60,000. It can't be that anymore.
Right.
But there's like this number that you can make annually. And I think it's just basically the idea is covering your basic expenses and with a little tiny bit extra. Maybe you can go on vacation once a year, right? That level of happiness is there's sort of like this fixed level of happiness that all people have, and even they find people who have sudden wealth syndrome when they get super rich or they get even if they lose a lot of money, you
Yeah.
kind of end up at that baseline no matter what happens. So the money is not going to end up meaning everything. It's going to be the other factors that we've talked about in the past that are the conditions of your happiness, not the money.
Right. So, I mean, other negative feelings someone might experience could be fear and paranoia, right?
Mm,
So,
yeah.
you're looking around and you're like, who's here trying to get my money? Or is my money safe? Um, are people trying to steer me in the wrong direction just so that they can benefit, or they just want to see my downfall? You know, those are feelings that someone might get, especially when this is something that like you just stumbled across and you don't want it to necessarily go away. That feeling of like, I don't want this to end is probably very prevalent, I would assume.
Yeah, and like what's important in your life has made a complete shift from, well, God knows what it was, like family, work,
Yeah,
this, that, the other thing, to just money. And
sure.
it's almost reminding me of, is that what Tolkien was talking about when he was like Gollum in the Ring?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
he's like, my precious,
My
that's,
precious. Yeah.
yeah, it's all he can think of.
You're just trying to protect.
Consumes him.
Yeah. So your shift of what's important now becomes on the wealth, because that's your access to things.
Hmm.
That's the thing that you believe is going to allow you to maintain a certain lifestyle that feels very important to you right now. So you become overprotective of it, and you may push people away even if they don't have negative intentions, because you're just assuming people are trying to get access to it.
And you become a monster. You become something that's not yourself.
Right.
It's like think about the sort of metaphor or the thing you've seen a million times in like medieval literature, like the dragon on top of the hoard of gold.
Yeah.
I mean, that's greed, right?
Right.
Protecting that gold and you become isolated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the behaviors that you might get into. So obviously, you know there's this sense of power or pride, and that can lead to like some destructive behaviors because you're not thinking about some of the repercussions of some of the things that you can get into, or you think that the money can somehow protect you from it. So gambling, drugs, alcohol, or excessive or impulsive spending, those might feel awesome in the moment, right? They might all feel really good to engage in at first, but obviously they can lead to a lot of dangerous future issues, which we're all very aware of. The other thing I forgot to mention is like sometimes this sudden wealth could come with family issues because, like, let's say that money is, someone, it's an inheritance. Other family members might get upset that, you became the one who inherited that money. So that causes all these family rifts, and then that's experiences of isolation that we didn't mention prior. So that's another part. And then there's the relationship issues, right? Finding and getting into relationships can be some, like, not just friendships, but romantic relationships. Trying to find people who are genuine, or, you know, not not interested just because of your wealth status, would be
And you're
something
always
that
going to
can be
think that
challenging.
too.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
it's going to revert back to the things that you were talking about before, like those destructive behaviors,
Yeah.
like drugs, drinking, gambling, all that cool stuff. I said cool
Absolutely.
stuff.
Cool stuff. So managing sudden wealth syndrome, Greg.
Yeah, so it's difficult. And again, I'm already doing that thing where I'm like having a hard time feeling bad for the person, which I shouldn't because it's like we all have our cross to bear, I guess, right? So pausing and planning, you know, avoid, Dave, you wouldn't have problems doing this, but avoid making immediate large financial decisions for several months to allow to kind of like time to process a little bit, maybe have a little fun, but not too much. Assemble a team. That's what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to have like these professionals now. You can have financial planners, tax people, lawyers to help you sort of navigate your finances. People who aren't family, who's, you know, if you benefit, they benefit kind of
Yeah.
people, you know.
Yeah.
Create a financial plan, of course, with professionals, and educate yourself on what it means to be in this financial role. It's almost like you're like running a business now because you would be a business,
Yeah.
right? And then seek professional counseling in a lot of ways through financial counseling, money counseling, and obviously therapy, because this is going to be you know a difficult adjustment to get back into this lifestyle, right? It's small gradual changes, almost, you know, a little bit at a time, I think is going to be the
Sure.
important thing here, right?
Absolutely.
Just kind of lifestyle changes, small. And I mean, if it were me, I would probably just, get a bigger house, get some property, something like that.
Get some
Something that's gonna
exotic
like the gift that
pets.
keeps on giving, you
Get
know?
some exotic pets.
Sure. Why not have a couple giraffes running around the front yard? Nothing crazy,
No,
you
nothing
know?
crazy.
And
Modest,
maybe,
modest
Dave, to
purchases.
have a sense of purpose, maybe develop like a charity or something like that, something to devote your time to.
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
The only thing that like makes I guess this would be the part that makes working on sudden wealth syndrome even more challenging is all those things you described are super boring compared to going out and spending my money frivolously, right?
Yeah.
So like it must be tough for someone to like actually work on it when now you have access to all these things that are so much more fun. Like I could
Yeah.
do all that work, or I could just, go take a trip to the Bahamas, or
Which, which
like
that might,
relax.
that's your
And
honeymoon phase.
yeah,
That's your honeymoon phase. And I think that's okay. I think that people,
they're like, I just got to get away. That's probably their response to everything. I just got to go take a trip,
yeah, yeah.
you know?
I just gotta go get a villa in,
Tuscany.
the Amalfi
Is that
Coast.
something they do? I don't even know. I don't
Money
even know what
Knoll.
rich people do. What do they do?
What do they do?
I don't even know. I don't even know what's rich people stuff. I have such blue collar syndrome that like I go into like a fancy restaurant and I don't ever feel like I blend in. I feel like people just can see the blue collar under my whatever
You're probably
collar.
wearing a blue collar. That's probably why.
Probably.
Why
I'm
do
in
I
a
wear this
horror
blue shirt?
t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah. Wait, you're wearing a Freddy Krueger shirt. That's why, Dave.
Why is everyone staring at me?
You're gonna be like my cousin. We come from a very blue collar family too. Who, like, if it's like an event, he'll wear a t-shirt, the t-shirt that has the bow tie on it. He will
Awesome.
literally pull that, which is interesting. So he would have some real
Yeah.
struggles.
Oh yeah. He's toast.
Yeah. So let me give you a couple of these cool cautionary tales because everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" So Timothy Schultz, he wins the Powerball in 1999 at age 21. That's a young age to win it. He experienced a lot of guilt and isolation. He says, quote, "I felt like a walking ATM" to
Ooh.
his friends and his family, and he struggled with new relationships. He eventually returned to college. It's like after like years of doing this, he's like, I want to go on the journey I was supposed to go on. And that's what he
I love
he
that.
kind of did. Do you want to read the Billy?
I wonder if Tim Schultz was related. Was it Charles Schultz from Peanut? He the illustrator of Peanuts.
I don't th I don't think so. I think he would have been having some wealth.
Yeah, I was like, maybe he was. Yeah. All right. Anyways, Billy Bob Harold Jr. Billy Bob
Yeah, you know Billy Bob. Well,
with an IE. Billy with an IE. I like that. The former Home Depot shelf stalker won 31 million in a Texas Lotto in '97, but blew it in just 2 years buying houses and cars for himself and family members. The stress of his new life led to his wife leaving him, and he took his own life. Oh, less than 2 years after his win. And I'm sorry, I made fun of his name. Now I should have read that
Yeah, no, I
before
didn't
actually
read the
saying
bottom
it.
of that one either. But
Yikes.
but yeah, see? Now it's
Whoa.
not so funny. That like this stuff can be really you can imagine how you can like almost see that
Damn.
as a movie happening. Like his wife is like now his wife is like access to like real rich people and he feels like an imposter and I'm not really like them and I'm just you know what I mean? You could
He's
see
not
this
just like
happening.
skydiving with Elvis impersonators, right? Do you remember that
Absolutely.
Nicolas Cage movie?
Mhm.
What was that?
Uh 500 miles to Graceland or something?
No, 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 no.
Leaving
I
Las
don't think.
Vegas? No, that's a different one for
No.
sure.
But that's another '90s movie that's about sudden wealth. Because don't they win the
Leaving
lottery in
Las
that?
Vegas.
No, that's the okay.
Honeymoon in Vegas.
Honeymoon in Vegas.
The
Is
Flying
don't
Elvis.
don't they win the lottery in that or something? Or am I thinking of a
Um,
different movie? There's
no,
like
I
a
think that
waitress who wins the lottery. No,
yes, is
another
that
'90s movie.
that was a great one.
There was a
Yeah, the
lot of
guy,
movies
yeah,
like that,
Nicolas
like the
Cage goes
lottery.
into a convenience store and says, "If I win, I'm going to split this with you," and he comes back and does
Yes,
it.
that's what it is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Right.
Yes, I think
They be
it's
they be loving some sudden wealth syndrome in the '90s, right?
yeah, and I think it's what's her name? I think it's Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh, maybe.
Big pull. So let's do one more of these, and then maybe we'll get into a couple of athletes if we have time. Jack Whitaker, after winning 315 million, now that's a serious one. $315 million Powerball jackpot in 2002. So we're talking like $1 billion. Whitaker's life was plagued with misfortune. He had hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen. His granddaughter died from a drug overdose, and he was arrested for driving under the influence by 2009. He was broke. I mean, easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Even
really.
even like so I know we think about lottery winners like that, but like I know athletes have the same issue, right?
Yes.
Because they're not exempt and they're making money over maybe a period of time, but I mean in the bigger scheme of things, those durations of time are pretty limited because 30 is considered old for an athlete. So NFL and NBA players, Sports Illustrated reported that 78% of the former NFL players and 60% of them are either bankrupt or experiencing financial distress within a few years of retirement. And a short earning window, pressure to spend, and lack of financial guidance contribute to the problem. Off the top of my head, I think Antoine Walker, who is a long-term Celtics player, and he went bankrupt at some point shortly after because come to find out he had a gambling issue, I believe was the reason for him. Charles Barkley's like pretty infamous for having gambling issues over time, and
Jordan
I'm sure,
too.
and Jordan as well.
Jordan's fine
um
though.
yeah, Jordan will always be fine. His name is attached to everything. I don't know if Charles Barkley ever experienced bankruptcy though. I just think it was pretty known that he had a gambling issue. I
But
can't
like the
remember.
short earning window,
Yeah.
that's the thing there, right? You've got a little bit of time to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
And
they
then
over and
yeah.
notorious overspenders, right? I mean, luxury
Yeah, because I mean,
cars,
you get right out of
parties.
college, and for so many athletes, they're coming from impoverished areas, and suddenly you have money, and you want to, what's that stereotype of like buying their mom a house, right? Or
Yep.
and then they're multiple cars and things like that, and I know it's a stereotype, but so many times we've heard that to be true, right? Or we've heard that story over and over again, and at the time, it's like good for them, but also they're so young experiencing this. How can they make responsible choices? And who's guiding them?
Who's guiding them? And then you have your, entrepreneurs and like there's this one that who made 24 million from an IPO, but lost it all within a few months, risky overseas investments. Like you're thrown into this world, this big money world. And,
Right.
and so the transactions that you're making, you're not using a few dollars a day, you're spending thousands a day. And it just, when you have this limited amount that you're not working towards anymore, it just the numbers just going down. You see it with inheritances,
Yeah.
you see it with like this COVID windfall. A person who received $257,000 bonus during the COVID-19 panic described a mix of disappointment and depression. Although the money was helpful, they also felt guilty for their success, which that one, 257,000. Now
It's
that's a
not
ton of
really,
money.
I mean, yeah, but it's nothing in the bigger scheme of things.
Right. That's I mean,
And here's the thing that always gets me too, and this is like something I never can get over. When people talk about like, oh, well, when they won the lottery, yeah, but so much goes to taxes. I'm like, but still,
yeah,
you still are left with a good amount of money. I always think it's funny when people like downplay
I know.
people winning large sums of money. Oh, well, they don't get it all at once. So what? That's
That's probably
actually
better.
that's better for the person. But then they're always like, well, after taxes, it's not really that. I don't care.
All right, let me ask you this, because two different minds here. When you win the lottery, I don't know if it's still this way, you would get lump sum or annuity. Which one would you choose?
I mean, as a part of me that would just say lump sum, right?
Yeah,
Just get it all out of the way.
that's
I want to
100% opinion.
know how much I have. Getting it over time could be beneficial if,
It
yeah,
could be, but like, what if the lottery? My thoughts go like, what if like the lottery
something
closes,
happens.
something bad happens? Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, either one would be fine. I'll
they're
take it.
both good.
They're both good.
They're both
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else there is to say about this besides this is a problem thinking a lot of us would love to try to see if we could work through. You know,
Yeah.
I know
There's
I wouldn't
something
mind.
to like also, and maybe this is like maybe there's a future episode here. Like I have this patient who's wealthy. His
Hmm.
family's wealthy. He has, because of that, he's also has wealth. And he is dating someone who does not come from the same background and is not currently wealthy. And she has a hard time listening to his woes because of his status, right? Like, oh, our fridge broke and I had to go out and buy a fridge. And she goes, oh, it must be so terrible to be able to afford to instantly replace your fridge with this brand new top of the line whatever. So anytime he complains about something that's like financial based, she has a really hard time showing any amount of empathy or sympathy, and that affects him. Like he gets upset about that. Like I get it, but it would be nice to not always be felt like I should be ashamed of my wealth, right? Or the fact that I have this ability. And
I
I
actually think
I I
that's
thought it
pretty
was like,
interesting.
yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting to consider that, and like the just financial status like dynamics and stuff like that. So maybe that's socioeconomic dynamics. Could be a different episode at some point.
I think that's yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
We do, like, if you don't have money, you do have this like, oh, wah, 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 like attitude towards people with money who complain about things, and it's like, is that right? I don't know.
Huh.
So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right. It is. That's just something that comes. It's hey, that's the price you pay for being
that's the
rich.
price you pay. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this was an episode that was enlightening in some way or thought provoking. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Let us
Um,
know.
Thanks to the people who have been reaching out to give feedback on episodes, good or bad. It's always appreciated. So Greg's like nodding, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's keep it
Yeah,
pushing.
well, there's the one that was like, I didn't know how to take it. There was a comment, which we appreciate all comments, that was like, it's sad that you guys misremembered something, and I was like, that could be anything.
Do you remember what it was?
I do remember that. I don't remember the name now, but I remember.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was. I remember that episode was so long ago that like I remember we mentioned like a situation. So it was part of the postpartum episode that we
Yeah, we
did a
mentioned.
long time
We
ago.
probably didn't mention the name because we didn't know the name, but like we were like, oh yeah, remember that thing,
Yes.
that kind of
Because it
situation.
came
Yeah.
up in conversation
Right,
during
right,
it
right.
versus us like saying like, oh, we
Researching.
should mention this and let's get the details of it, which is gonna happen. Like
Hmm.
our ability to remember names is poor at at most times, never mind while we're recording an episode of this. So yeah, no, that does happen. And, it's unfortunate. It probably would have been a good little detail to, be able to discuss in detail in the episode, but we missed it. We missed the
Missed it.
mark.
Missed it.
It's not the first time. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and continue to let us know your thoughts and communicate on those chat boards in the Patreon and wherever else, and leave ratings and reviews and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah.